Here's why we trust each other. Number one is character. Good character builds trust. I'm faithful, I'm humble, I'm servant-hearted. As opposed to is I'm up and down, I'm proud, and I want you to serve me. And so my character is going to build trust. Number two is I'm going to let you connect. I'm not distracted. I care about you and I'm empathetic towards you. If I'm empathetic towards you, that builds trust. If Karen knows that I'm tuned in on her frequency and I care about her, she's going to trust me. The more I reject her and the more she has to chase my heart down, the more it's going to violate the trust of our relationship. Being approachable in conflict is whenever, listen to me, you have to give your spouse the right to complain in marriage. Your spouse will not build trust for you unless they know they can complain and keep their dignity. Controllers will make you pay a price for saying it the way you feel. That's control. In other words, I will teach you to fear me, and I don't want to hear the wrong things. I only want you to say things on this frequency, and if you say something I don't like, you're going to pay a price for it every time. That's when you lose the trust in the relationship. And this is the way I was. I was dominant, and I was verbally abusive. And I would begin to lash out at Karen and teach her, you're not going to win the argument. You know, I can talk better than you can talk, and I can last longer than you can last. You're not going to win the argument. We had no intimacy in our marriage. Our marriage was terrible. Okay. Here's the opposite of that. I want to know how you feel because I want to please you. I may not understand it. I may not agree with it. But I'll respect it, and you'll never have to pay a price for saying it. If you think my breath stinks, if you think I'm not a good husband, if you think that I'm not meeting your needs, it may hurt, but I promise you will not lose your dignity in the process. And whenever you allow your spouse the right to complain, it builds trust. Over and over, they come back to you and say, honey, can I just tell you how it makes me feel when you don't take the trash out, when you don't help around, when you talk to me like that? And you say, well, I'm sorry. Have I been doing that? As opposed to saying, I haven't been doing that. You're just petty and you're just jealous because and you lash out at them and you teach them. A lot of people who come to marriage counseling, they tell us what the problem is, and we say, have you told your spouse that? And they say, I would never tell them that. I'd pay a huge price. They don't let me say stuff like that. The truth doesn't go away. You just bottle it up, and it creates problems. So in conflict, I'm going to let you approach me, and you're not going to pay a price for it. That creates trust. Confidentiality means two things. What I know about you stays in this marriage, and I will never share it with a family member or a friend, and I'll never use it against you in conflict. It shatters the trust of a relationship. No one knows more about you than your spouse. And if it becomes a weapon in wartime, it's worse than anything. If you tell your friends about it, and sometimes men and women both can do this, but what's between Karen and I is sacred. And if Karen knows, in other words, we're sitting there talking and we're having intimate conversation, and all of a sudden this trust develops and the Holy of Holies opens up, and I begin to tell you about my fears, about my hurts, about my temptations, about this and this, about my failures and all these kind of things. The Holy of Holies opens up, and now we're getting into self-revelation and to intimate conversation, the two top levels of marriage. And all of a sudden, you take that information, and 3 weeks from now, you get mad at me, and you begin to talk about it among your family members and tell people, and you begin to use it against me and say, well, you told me the other day you're afraid of clowns. What kind of a manly man's, and I'm not afraid of clowns. And, and all of a sudden, all that trust that was built in order for us to be able to open our hearts and talk, here we go. I'm not opening the doors to you again. It's too hurtful for you to take what I'm saying privately and share it somewhere else. In good times or in bad, I will absolutely be confidential about the details of our relationship. So there has to be trust, and that trust is developed over time by consistent behavior. And here's another way that trust is developed, by taking responsibility when you've blown it. See, no one's perfect, but when you won't take responsibility for behavior, it just means you're not responsible. How can I trust you? You do stuff wrong, but you won't take responsibility for it, as opposed to saying, I'm sorry, that was my fault. And I said that and it hurt you. For the first 5 years of our relationship, 3 years of dating and 2 years of marriage, I never one time said I was wrong. I was wrong all the time. But I was a selfish idiot and I was insecure. And I just thought the world would crumble if I said I was sorry. But that's not what crumbled. Our marriage crumbled. And Karen's trust for me crumbled. Karen had no trust for me because of the way that I was. And I couldn't blame her for it. And the night that our marriage was healed, I came to Karen and I said to her, I'm sorry. I've been a jerk. And I've devastated you with my mouth. And I've lived for work and golf, and I'm going to give golf up. I know that it's gotten in between our marriage. And that's what began the healing in our relationship. And that's what began the restoration of trust with her and me. It's when I took responsibility for my issues.
Thank you for joining us. Experience the life-changing series, The Indestructible Marriage, on CD or DVD. Looking for your next great book? Start reading instantly with Marriage Today's ebooks, now available online. Marriage Today's latest book, Happy, Happy Love, will supercharge your marriage with practical tips, wisdom, and inspiration for every stage of marriage. Visit happylovebook.com. Follow your interests and get social by connecting with Jimmy and Karen and the Ministry of Marriage Today on Twitter. Become a rock-solid partner today and equip yourself with the tools you need for a successful marriage. $14, $28, or $56 per month. Choose the partnership level that's right for you. Become a rock-solid partner today.